Good evening, everybody. My name is Brock McMillan. I'm chair of the Central Regional Advisory Council. It is 6:00 p.m. on July 29th, and I call this meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. I have a little blurb I need to read. This is a public forum allowing you to express your opinions and proposals on the management of wildlife in our state. As such, I encourage you to do so, because without your input to this RAC and to the large degree, the Wildlife Board would not be a functioning bodies. This RAC considers your ideas, opinions, and proposals and reports them to the Wildlife Board. The Wildlife Board, not the RAC, is charged with setting wildlife policy for state. We all have our ideas and opinions about what's best for Utah's wildlife, and we approach this with tremendous emotion and passion. Again, I encourage you all who wish to express their opinion to do so. However, I ask that we as individuals respect opposing views on the issues being discussed. I would appreciate the audience keeping their emotions in check, allowing all individuals to freely express their opinions. Appropriate conduct will provide smooth meeting flow, allowing the RAC to listen, digest, and address all concerns, opinions, and proposals offered for consideration. I don't need to say this, but no hooting, hollering, rude comments, anything like that. If inappropriate behavior persists, the offender will be asked to leave. If you would like to make a comment tonight, you need to fill out one of the forms that is on the table outside of this room and hand it to Josh over here on the end, and we can pass it around. It needs to get to Ron here. Otherwise, you will not be allowed to comment. Everybody can comment on everything if they want. They just need to fill out one of the cards. I would like to welcome a few people in our audience. We have the Director of the Division of Wildlife, Riley Peck, here. Thanks for being here. We have the Deputy Director of the Division of Wildlife, Justin Shannon, here. We have Wildlife Board Member Gary Nielsen here. And would like to welcome Lindy Varney, who has provided presentations for tonight as well. At this time, let's introduce all the RAC members. Let's start with Josh over here. And if you're new to the RAC, which the first two will be, let's give a little blurb, who you represent, a little bit about why you want to be on the RAC, maybe 20 seconds.
New RAC member, first RAC meeting, Josh Kays. I represent sportsmen, excited to serve, give my input, hopefully try to help and bring something to the table.
Thank you, Josh.
Also Josh Greenhall, sportsman as well.
Tyson Skeen, I represent the public at large, new RAC member here, my first meeting tonight, and just excited to be a part of the process. I want to try and make wildlife issues better in Utah, and so you can either get involved or not, and so I wanted to get involved.
Bryce Castaneda at large.
Jim Schuler, wildlife watcher.
Braden Shepard, agriculture.
Drew Eline, Forest Service.
Eric Reed, BLM.
And then John, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, John Ziegler, wildlife watcher as well.
Excellent. And Amos? You're on mute there, Amos.
All right, can you hear me?
You betcha.
All right, this is Amos Murphy, out in the Deep Creek areas, Idaho, Utah, with the Confederate Tribes of the Goshen Reservation, and glad to be here.
Thank you, Amos. Somebody online, I think, has their mute button off. If they'd turn it on, that'd be great. Oh, we also have Keller. Do you want to introduce yourself? Maybe not. And I see online we also have Wildlife Board member.
Yeah,
go ahead.
We also have Wildlife Board member. Go ahead. I'm here. Kellen Heyer, agriculture.
Excellent. Thank you. And we have Paula Richmond online as well from the Wildlife Board. I believe that's everybody. At this time, we'll turn the time over to Ron to give an update on the region.
So Ron Nielsen, I'm filling in for Danny Summers tonight. He fell ill today,
But before I give the update, I'd like to turn some time over to Riley Peck, our division director.
Thank you for that. I asked for this to be part of our regional update, just to come and say hello and welcome our new RAC members and just really have an opportunity to get in front of the RAC. This is a very important process to us and pretty cool. And you know, I've been director now for shy of 8 months. Hasn't been very long. And I just wanted to come and express my appreciation. This is a lot of hard work. This is a very important process to us. It's something that we take seriously and we appreciate it. There are going to be times where you're going to get beat up a little bit by the public. You know, I appreciated Dr. McMillan's comments at the beginning to try and keep this cordial and friendly. And we're passionate about what we do, and you guys are passionate, and that's why you're here. And I wanted to thank you for your time. There are times like tonight where I think that our attendance seems small. I think there are times like others where it's large, but every one of them is important to us. Something that you guys might not see as a RAC, that as a director's office, we watch the RACs regularly. We have an ongoing chat as it's going on. We discuss the items that are brought up and the comments made by each and every RAC. This is not something that we ignore and we wait for the board to hear. This is important to us. You guys represent the voice of this region, and I appreciate it. So I look forward to meeting you all. Some of you have been on a long time, and I know you very well. Some of you not so much, but please don't hesitate to reach out to our director's office, to myself, to anybody with any questions. We're happy to chat and to communicate and go, but this is just 5 minutes to say welcome to the RAC, to those that are new. Thank you for those that have been serving, to those that are here, and we appreciate all the hard work and service.
Thank you, Riley. Let me jump in here for a second, Ron, because I'm out of order here. Thank you. I appreciate that. But we need to approve the minutes and the agenda before we go on. Sorry, everybody. I've been out of the country for the last 5 months, and I'm a little rusty. It's been rough living in the cliffs of southern Spain, darting ibex, but somebody had to do it. So if we could have a motion to approve the minutes. Thank you. Second by Bryce. All in favor? Passes. Thank you very much. The other thing that I'm supposed to do right now is have an update for the Wildlife Board, which hopefully I'll have by the time Ron's done with his regional update. Yeah, go ahead, Ron.
Okay, again, I'm filling in for Danny Summers. He's the new regional supervisor, but is ill. I'm sure you'll get a chance to meet with him. If you have any questions or concerns, or he is available, and you can contact him. Quick update from each section. I apologize for reading, but that seems to be the fastest way to get through this. The preseason pronghorn elk classification is going on now. We have trail cameras set for chucker monitoring. We're in the process of trapping bears on the Nebo and the Manti for ongoing research with Utah State, and I think our law enforcement is doing some research with that as well. Our wildlife conservation has been working with bats, hummingbirds, dark kangaroo mouse this summer, and they've got more public bat nights coming up in August. The aquatic section, our sport fish folks have been stocking fish in their beaver ponds, basically on the Manti La Salles. They're trap netting Utah Lake. And they're heavily involved this year in a special kind of inter-region project working on the Fall Creek cutthroat restoration project out in the Uintas. And they're looking forward to stocking the fingerling Bonneville cutthroat this September. Summer fishing's been good for kokanee at both Jordanelle and Strawberry. Rainbow catch rates have been really high at Strawberry. And there was a picture there you see of a 24-pound channel catfish taken out of Utah Lake. The native aquatics folks are still working on the pilot project for trapping carp. They're baited traps that they're using on Utah Lake. They had one day that they got between 8,000 and 9,000 pounds of fish. So they're coming along on that. And then they're also trying to develop some outreach partnerships to protect boreal toads up in the Silver Lake area around Brighton, to try to get people to leave the toads alone and not take them home. Habitat section just finished 515 acres of a project for mule deer in 12 Mile Canyon. They installed 3 guzzlers on the Sandpitch Mountains for mule deer and sprayed 484 acres of myrtle spurge to improve mule deer winter range. And then also a project with RMEF on a weed pull on some properties. The outreach section has 2 upcoming public bat nights, one at Alta and one at Tracy Aviary. They've got an upland game hunting seminar with Jason Robinson here at this office, August 28th. They've got a new hunting walk-in access property coming online in Sanpete County that's adjacent to Manti Meadow WMA. It's the busy time of year for the dedicated hunter program, trying to work with partners and other DWR personnel to take care of all of the dedicated hunters. And they're supporting the DWR sections with field work and obtaining content to highlight the efforts on social media. And that's the update.
Thank you very much, Ron. We're still trying to get the wildlife board minutes. If we get that, we'll come back to it. But in the meantime, we'll move on to the 3 action items that we have on the agenda. So the first action item is recommended changes to R657-42 and R65-7-57, surrenders and variances. Lindy Varney is here. She did the presentation. Hopefully everybody had a chance to watch it. Do you have anything you want to start with, Lindy, or do you want us to just jump right in?
It's up to you. I can give you a brief cap, or you can just jump in. They're pretty simple administrative changes.
Hopefully everybody watched the presentation, but why don't you give us the 3 little changes?
Okay, so the first one is with the surrenders. Sometimes there's a few incidences where it's mostly with bear and our sage grouse, where we post results less than 30 days before the hunt starts. And so people aren't getting their permits in time to surrender them. And right now in the current rule, they are allowed to surrender the permit, but they do not qualify for the refund. And so we are just trying to align our surrender rules with this exception to our current surrender rules, where they qualify for the refund minus 25. So that's that one. The next one, I'm the right one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The next one is with our surrenders for medical reasons. Right now, our current rule allows you to submit that medical paperwork into us 90 days after the hunt ends. We've come up with a lot of eligibility issues and people procrastinating, surprisingly. And so they're not getting their points back reinstated, or the waiting period is not waived, or their doctors won't submit the paperwork because it's been 3 months. They won't give it to them. So we are asking to switch that to 30 days to get that, so we can take care of their eligibility issues and reinstate their points into them when needed. And the last one is also to add some language into our rule, just to align with state code for medical surrenders, where they can get refunded for medical. That was not in our rule, even though it was in code. So that is the gist of those ones. Pretty simple administratively. Clean up housekeeping items.
Questions for Lindy from the RAC? I have, why 30 days after? Why, if they have a medical reason, don't they know when the hunt starts? I mean, why don't we have this even 2 weeks before the hunt so that tag can go to somebody else? I mean, there's a lot of, we're just squandering that opportunity.
Yeah, and sometimes most people do turn it so they can turn our tag in by state code to the end of the season ends. That's in state code, so we can't change that. But for the medical paperwork, they just push it off. Most people do surrender it before the 30 days or 2 weeks before the hunt due. But there are some times where things just happen and you don't know that you've been diagnosed with an illness, or you end up in the hospital, or you break your leg the day before you hunt while you're loading your 4-wheeler into the truck.
Sure.
Heard all of these. And so And they just can't get us that paperwork because they're dealing with surgery or they're in the hospital. And so that's kind of why. And so we've looked at all of it, and 30 days seemed like a good time frame because most of our things are within 30 days. And that's kind of, so people know it's 30 days.
Okay, what's the difference between the surrender for medical and the variance for medical?
So that's a good one. So with variance, it includes like regular, like immediate family members, or the hunt has closed. Because right now the medical surrender, by code, you can turn it into us up to the day the hunt ends. Now, if the hunt ends and something happens, you can still turn in the medicals, like a variance medical surrender 5 months later. And that's another one that I didn't get to the second page. So yeah, so that's the other one we're changing, sorry, is to change that 5 months, so the 120 days to 30 days. That's the other little caveat, sorry.
Okay, that's all go ahead, Jim.
Yeah.
Linda, great presentation. It all makes sense to me, but are we talking about 20% of the tags, 5% of the tags, 0.5% of the tags? But what is the percentage of these people?
For medical,
general, yeah,
in general,
for these.
yeah. So let me pull that up. I do have that. I can't quite. So for medical, it's about 20 to 30% of our tags are surrendered for medical purposes.
20% of all tags, or 20% of those that are surrendered are for medical purposes?
Yes, the ones that are surrendered.
Okay.
And that's only like 8% of our tags are surrendered.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it is a small number, but like I said, when you're dealing with, overall between all the species and everything general season, you're still dealing with hundreds. And so like, there's a lot of people that actually never turn in that paperwork to us because they procrastinated or and so we're trying to get things like, don't procrastinate, turn in the paperwork, let's get it in so we can deal with it and get the paperwork and the points reinstated.
Go ahead, Bryce.
Lindy, the variance, are those individuals hoping to obtain the tag next year? Is that what that variance is versus the surrender, the medical surrender?
So depending on the species, our once in a lifetime species are the ones that we can only extend to the following year. All limited entry draw permits, we just reinstate their points. So, but we do see, it's about a third of the permits that we do extend. And it's mostly because they're either a once in a lifetime species or a conservation permit. And, those ones are enrolled to allow us to extend them because they've paid and they don't have any points for us to make them whole.
Do you have any idea how often fraud occurs? Like somebody claims that they're hurt and then they didn't hunt and they actually hunted and they didn't find the animal they wanted?
I've seen in several cases over my career, yeah.
That's my concern there. I mean, I think because I've heard guys talk about that. I went out, scouted, I didn't find, I hunted the first week of the season, still didn't find anything. I'm turning it in for medical reasons.
We have seen that, sadly, like the person that's going to turn you in is usually your family member. It's crazy. So we've had a lot of, and those get turned over to law enforcement and they're dealt with that way. And we've had variances be denied because we had proof that they went out hunting. And so, yeah, like we do our due diligence to make sure that stop as much as possible.
Questions from the RAC? Any questions from the public? Public comments?
So I don't know which agenda.
So,
So this one is the
next one, William, you didn't put the agenda item. William Austin? What agenda item did you want to talk about? Oh, that's on the phone, yeah. Yep. So do you know what item he wants to speak on?
I personally am affiliated with Citizens Forum. Has anybody ever heard of Citizens Forum?
What? Wait just a second. Let me check with Jason here. Jason sent me an email that you were going to be here and that Stacy had approved this. And it doesn't say
which agenda item it is. It says that
He'll hold the cell phone up.
Let's have you hold the cell phone up. You can make the comment now, and if it's not for this agenda item, Stacy approved him to call in and do it. If it's not for this agenda item, then we'll just remember it for the next agenda item. So let's do that. Yep, let's do that.
So citizens forum, as you know, is the citizens' effort to communicate and create.
Sure.
That's where a lot of communication.
So you step up to the microphone here, and we're going to give you up to 3 minutes.
Hi, Austin. This is Kent. We're over here now and you are live.
Do you want to hold him up to the mic?
My name is William Austin Carter. I live in the Footcliff 365 days a year. I'm a mule deer fanatic. I've invested my whole life in livelihood and sacrificed a lot to be surrounded by nature and wilderness up here in the private properties we own. Had a complete collapse of mule deer in the last 2 years, and it's unfortunate. I've spent 2 decades and quite a bit of financial and time invested in the mule deer populations to be preserved in my area, and it's been completely collapsed under mismanagement. And we always have droughts. We've always had bad winters. We've always had those things. Those are all natural. But what's going on right now is not natural. It's man-made, and it needs to be addressed, or we're going to lose the mule deer completely if we haven't already. We have special interest groups that seem to be able to pimp out the wildlife, and they kind of overtook the voice of all the sportsmen and the citizens and population of the state that actually owns the wildlife or should have access to it. We have a lot of issues, and I have documentation of everything that I'm saying today, not just me spouting off. I don't know how else to get the groups together or have any other conversations other than approach them at these meetings. I've been absolutely begging DWR to assist in preserving mule deer and other species in this area for quite some time and haven't got any assistance or help. I also have extensive bison damages because I have them dropped into my cattle herd and on the private properties, and I can't get no assistance on that. You only get attacked. You end up having DWR do a hostile takeover of your property when you reach out to try to get any help, and there's absolutely no compensation involved. So the landowners across the state, if they won't have wildlife on their land right now, it's not going to be private property anymore. So that's not good for wildlife at all. And believe me, I've reached out extensively on the bison issue and have not had any help in the matter. We've approached it a few times, but it's always something creative DWR to attack in a different way instead of just solve the problem. There seems to be a lack of respect for life, both human and wildlife. You should see what it takes a toll on a guy's family when they do these types of things. They do have the full access of all the state agencies at their will and the Attorney General's office, so it's pretty substantial when they decide they want to just take your property.
Austin, I don't want to interrupt you, but I'm going to give you 30 more seconds. You have a total of 3 minutes. So
I got documentation and I got pictures of helicopters causing extensive damage with no response when I turned it in. And you go to lower in the canyon, there's dead bighorn sheep. And I believe happened at the same time. There's no response on any of these issues. There's a group called Citizen Portal, or an organization. It's vital because the state and Cox seems to be trying to shut down the ability to get public records. So we got to do something to try to make sure we have an ability as citizens in the state to be able to get to these records of these meetings and stuff.
Okay, Austin, I'm going to have to cut.
When I tried
Austin,
to on bison,
you need to sit up and talk to him.
it was over 25,000.
Austin, Austin.
Mr. Austin, we've met our time. Thank you so much for your comments today. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I would provide feedback to him to reach out to us via email and to the state and get all his thoughts clear. I think that's the way, because it didn't seem to be with this topic today, but definitely we can address those things and make recommendations to the wildlife board. But you have two wildlife board members, the director of the division and the deputy director of the division sitting in this room today. So they heard some of Austin's concerns. I think that's the best way to go about it. I appreciate you being here. Okay. With that, we'll turn it over to Ron to have a summary of the public comments.
Okay, so on question number 1, we had 3 total votes, 2 strongly agree, 1 strongly disagreed. The agreement, the comment was that it simplifies the process, and basically the strongly disagreed just doesn't like new rules.
Thank you very much. I'll bring it back to the RAC for discussion. Jim?
So I know I'm out of order. Lindy, as a physician, I know that if I were to lie to an insurance company, it's a felony and a really bad thing. But if I lied to a patient that needed something for this, I'd probably go, in my mind, I think, what's the harm? Is there harm? I mean, should the physicians know that they cannot do this, that it is a felony or some sort of a law-breaking thing if they were to lie for this purpose?
It is, yeah, it's the exact same thing. It's a felony because they're submitting, a statement into us for it. Do they know that? No, probably not, because, we don't send that out to all of them. But we have had, times where we've tried to call them and talk to them, but because of HIPAA, it's just getting stricter and stricter, and you just hope that the physician understands the ramifications of falsifying a document.
I wonder if there isn't a way for the division to reach out to, say, the medical community, their legislative body in Utah. It's just part of their, every time I get these emails and here's the updates, that'd be nice for the physicians to know. It might help 3 or 4 not go through the system like that. So.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. I didn't realize that you guys got those kind of emails, so I can definitely work towards something like that, because I think it's something that we should address and let them know that, it's falsifying a document. So
sorry about that.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Josh?
I wonder if we could just create a form. So when that doctor's note gets filled out, it has to be done on a form, and that form could explain that to the physician that, this is a public resource and it's a felony or something.
We did have that, and
okay.
it didn't work. So then we went to having them submit a statement, because the doctors wouldn't sign a piece of paper that was a form and give us the information that we needed. So we've tried to go back and forth. We can read maybe this day and age versus 10 years ago, maybe it would work better.
Maybe that's why we need a form.
Yeah. So, yeah, great suggestion.
That's a great idea. If they don't fill out the form, they don't get the variance. Yeah.
And just another suggestion, you could potentially make it a requirement that there's HIPAA waiver. If you want to avail yourself of this, you have to sign a HIPAA waiver so that we can contact your doctor and they can't hide behind that veil.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great one too.
Any other discussion from the RAC on this? John, yes.
Yeah, along the lines of what the discussion's been, I would think they could do an online form for the doc to fill out that would warn him of possible repercussion if he's not fully truthful. You're not going to get a HIPAA waiver, trust me, but you could have the doc fill out a form online that would make it very clear that whoever's filling out the form, if they're not fully credible and truthful, that there will be penalty potentially.
Thank you, John. Seeing no other comments, I would recognize motion or motions.
I make a motion to accept the division's recommendations as projected and stated.
I'll second it.
So we have a motion to accept the division's recommendation as presented. It's been seconded. Any discussion on the motion before we vote? All those in favor? Gillen? Very good. Passes unanimously. Let's jump back before we go on to the next agenda item, and let me give you an update from the Wildlife Board meeting. At the last Wildlife Board meeting, there was a motion to approve the dedicated hunter rule amendments for baking hours as presented by the division. This is a change that you can accrue dedicated hunter hours before you receive your tag or before you're approved for the dedicated hunter program. And that was passed unanimously. There was a motion to approve the conservation permit rule amendments as presented by the division. That passed unanimously. There was a motion to approve the Outfitters Guides and Spotters Rule R657-72 as presented with the revised language provided by the division. And that passed with 3 in favor and 2 recusals. There was a motion to approve the CWMUs with public land variance requests as presented by the division, with the caveat that as landowners apply for this program going forward, that they understand there is another option available to them. That passed unanimously. We should have had some of these agenda items on this meeting because it's not going to be that long. There was a motion to approve the sage grouse translocation as presented by the division, and that passed 4 in favor with 1 excused. There was a motion to approve the possession and release of pen-reared game birds rule amendment R657-4 as presented. That passed with 4 in favor and 1 excused. And there was a motion to approve the Antelope Island Memorandum of Understanding as presented by the division, and that motion passed unanimously. And that's the update to the board. I don't know if anybody on the RAC has questions relative to that. But sorry to go out of order. I was unprepared today. Okay, we'll jump back into the agenda. We're going to go to agenda item number 6. Recommended changes to R657-41 and R657-62, sportsman draw and group applications. Lindy.
Okay, this one is, again, just a quick admin housekeeping changes. So just kind of an overview of what the recommendations are. So if you draw for a sportsman's permit, our current rule does not allow you to purchase a point for the species that you're ineligible for. So for example, if you drew out for like a bison sportsman's permit, you are ineligible to purchase another once in a lifetime point in the big game application because you can't have more than one once in a lifetime species as a resident, right? So we've seen this a couple of times throughout the decade where they can't accumulate a point for the next year, even though they would like to start building points for their new species. So we're recommending to just allow them to apply for a point, not a hunt, just a point for the species that they were right now ineligible for. Another recommendation that we are presenting is that for the sportsman's and conservation permits, statewide permits, they have a set start date in their rule. So like August 1st or September 1st. And if that day falls on a Sunday, in the state of Utah, we can't start hunts on a Sunday. So we always have to adjust it. So we would like to put that in rule, those dates, because every 7 years, we all kind of can't remember how we did it. And so we would like to put that in rule where if it's August 1st, it will start on August 2nd. And the reason why we went to August 2nd instead of July 31st is just kind of standard where we don't like to hunt in July. If possible, we always wait till August to start the hunts. And then the September 1st would always go to August 31st. And those for just our statewide permits. And then just another clarifying, this has never happened before, but we just want to clarify and rule that you only can draw for one sportsman's permit. That's how it lies in the big game application. You can apply for limited entry once in a lifetime, but you only can draw for one. That's how the sportsman's application is set up. We just want to clarify and rule that people will understand that's how it is. And then our next recommendation is to allow group applications for a management buck deer hunt. Back in the day when this hunt came into place, we didn't have very many permits. This is where we allowed youth and seniors have their own additional allotment of permits. So group applications was not an ideal situation because a lot of people would be not able to apply, draw out because we wouldn't have enough permits. Over the decade, we now have enough permits and we feel comfortable removing that and allowing people apply as groups.
Thank you, Lindy. Questions from the RAC for Lindy?
This is more of a comment, I guess. I wasn't a draw. I was gonna be that one guy that drew the 2 tags. I'm just saying. I had a good feeling next year it was gonna happen.
The
So,
system won't let you.
yeah. Can we push this back a year? No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you. Any comments from the public? Okay, we will go to public comment. Let's go first with Kyle Coombs.
I'm Kyle Coombs, I'm just representing myself. My only concern with the sportsman's permit thing, the changes that would be, I guess from my understanding with the changes, would it be like if you drew like say the elk sportsman's permit, would you be ineligible to, I guess, apply for a point for elk for the next year? Is that what the change is to allow you to do that?
So currently, if you drew out for elk, you cannot purchase a point for elk, even if I've been accumulating, and I now have 25 points for elk. The system this rule would forbid you to apply. You could apply for limited entry deer, but you couldn't, so you've lost that year of elk.
Okay.
The
so
proposal
the change would be to
would
allow
allow
you
you
to
to
do
just to buy the points. You can't apply for elk, but so then you can stay with and not lose that year, which could set you back depending on the unit,
Yeah.
5-10 years of drawing out.
that. Okay. I guess my only concern with that would be like, and maybe it doesn't matter because it's one tag every year, but I mean, we changed the dedicated hunter where, you can't get 2 points for general deer, right? You can't get dedicated and general. And so my only concern would be like, well, if you just drew a more than once in a lifetime tag, and then you can still get points, I guess, for the same species for essentially, not truly once in a lifetime, but it's getting there. But that was my only concern, but maybe it doesn't really matter too much with being only one tag. So anyways, yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Kyle. Turn the time over to Ron for summary of the public comments. Thank you. Seems like a lot of interest with 2 comments. Bring it back to the RAC for our discussion and comment here. Go ahead.
I actually went through kind of the same process that Kyle did, thinking I don't feel too terribly bad for somebody who draws a sportsman permit not being able to get a point. You just hit the lottery 10 times over, right? You can sacrifice a point. But then I guess the compassion in my heart kicked in and thought, especially for those once in a lifetime permit species, man, you drop back a year, you're SOL. And so it was kind of, I went through the same process, Kyle, of, yeah, I don't feel bad. I don't think we should be doing this. And I kind of thought, well, it's one tag. It's probably not the end of the world. So I just put that on the record for y'all.
Thank you. That means sorry out of luck. Braden.
I just want to comment, that might be one of the first times you guys might hear an attorney saying they have compassion. So, no, I was in the same boat though. I thought the same thing, like this guy, they got lucky, but in the end, it's such a small percentage. I'm good with it. So
Josh.
Yeah, one quick comment. I mean, it's such a small percentage. I don't know that it matters much, but that sportsman's draw is largely kind of a money funding thing, right? And so you're trying to get people to put in for their shot at it. Whereas if there's somebody that's in sheep points, right, and they lose that sheep point, that may make the difference where they could never hunt a sheep. So I don't know. It seems like you should be able to still get points, I think.
Thank you, Josh.
Apologies, I'm just going to chime in real quick. Ron, we didn't have your mic on when you read the public comment. Would you mind repeating that one so we could capture it online? Thank you so
Okay,
much.
we're going back to Ron.
I knew you
This
would.
time
my
he's
man.
turning his
I knew
mic
you would.
on. We're having a great meeting tonight. It's going perfect.
Moving at the speed of bureaucracy. Question number 2, we had 2 responses, one strongly disagree and one strongly disagree. One strongly agree, one strongly disagree, and there were no comments with those votes.
Thank you, Ron. And now we're back to the RAC for discussion and comment. I mean, I agree with what's been said. You miss a point on some of these and that puts you, maybe never drawing that tag the rest of your life. And I know I'm in that boat. Hey, with no other comment, I would entertain a motion.
I move to accept as presented.
Second.
So we have a motion by Bryce and a second by Eric to accept the division's recommendation as presented. All of those in favor? Passes unanimously. On to our final action item for the night. Lindy, please come up. Haven't seen you in a while.
I know.
This is recommended changes to R657-73 tagging requirements. And Lindy, do you want to just provide a brief summary? I think everybody's familiar, but let's do it again.
Okay. I just wanted to give you guys a trial run for you new RAC members of how these processes go, you know.
Usually it's better than this because usually I'm not an idiot.
Usually Brock's on top of things. I'm just giving a hard time. He's great. So actually, this proposal is creating a new rule. This is R657-73. It's a brand new rule that will consolidate all of our tagging regulations and adding language to allow electronic tagging. So that's the purpose of this proposal. Under this new rule, hunters still have the option of physically tagging a permit or electronically tagging a permit. We're not saying it's going strictly e-tagging. That's what we call it, is e-tagging. We're not saying we are moving that way. We're still giving people the options. So they can still physically tag it or e-tag it. But under this new rule, you still have to completely detach, if you're going to physically tag the animal, detach the tag from the permit, completely remove the appropriate notches, which correlate with the date the animal was harvested, and physically tag it to the carcass and make sure it's securely fastened and visible. One of our biggest changes that we are doing to this new rule, though, is we are eliminating that you are no longer required to have the tag remain with the largest portion of the meat until it is entirely consumed. Law enforcement felt that was no longer needed this day and age, and they felt really comfortable removing that from the rule. So when it comes to the e-tagging under this new rule, you have the permit on your phone in our app. If you don't download the app, you can't have it, but you download it, download your permit, and then once you are next to your animal that you just harvested, you will click, you seriously hit it, and it'll say, are you sure you want to e-tag this? Because if you're not next to your animal, do not proceed. So if you're saying, yep, I'm next to it, you hit yes, I'm right there, I want to physically e-tag it, and you still have to, you know, correlate with the date that you took the animal and provide the information that's required. And then you have to keep the electronic harvest code in your possession. You don't need to attach it to the animal, but you need to have it on your possession. So that either means you write it down, you take a screenshot, or learn where it is hidden in the app. It's not hidden, but it's just in your permit on a new tab. So it's still in the app, but you have to have that in your possession when you leave the mountain with that animal on you. Still, this did not change, but within the rule, just to point out that you still may not remove more than one notch indicating the date. So if you do that, it's illegal. It's illegal to tag more than one carcass using the same physical or electronic tag. So if you decide to think you can get away with it, it's still illegal, it's still poaching, you still will get cited for it. That has not changed. And you cannot hunt or pursue the species after you're shooting and retrieving your animal, detaching the tag from your permit, or notching the tag either physically or electronically.
I have one question.
Yeah.
So the person that submits the e-tag has to remain with the animal till it gets home?
No, that's not like the rule that says with law enforcement, we talked about that. They have to have the electronic code.
So like if I have my wife's tag on my phone, I can tag with hers?
No, she has to be there.
That's what I mean. Does a person that tags?
Yes, I thought when you're like, because sometimes you have to run the animal down to the meat locker, right? To get processed. That's different. But yeah, no, the person that, it could be on your phone, Brock, but your wife has to be next to you. She has to physically do it, just like a physical tag. Yep. She needs to push the button.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's start. I forgot your name, doggone it. Tyson, sorry.
So I just have one question, Lindy, and you may not be the person to answer this, but if you're not, I feel Division of Law Enforcement can. Some of the biggest concerns I've heard around this is the increased opportunity for poaching, which I'm not sure I necessarily agree with, but I represent the public at large, so I'm going to ask the question. If I'm on the second weekend of the deer hunt and I get checked by a law enforcement officer and I have my paper tag with me and they check that, are they going to be able to know if I've already notched an electronic tag
Yes.
the first weekend? They'll be able to run that through the system and know that.
Yes.
Okay, thank
We
you.
have a database that law enforcement has access to. Yes.
Let's go Jim, then Josh, then John.
So two things. One, you don't need cell service for this to work, right? Because it's in your
No.
app.
Yeah, that's the beauty of this app. Like we have learned, it took us several years. We've been talking about e-tagging for years. We took our time developing it and learned the mistakes from other states so we could have the best product. But yeah, you don't need cell service. You need cell service to download the permit, but on the mountain, you do not need it when you're notching your
And then,
tag.
and maybe this, you've already explained this, but if I'm e-tagging, it would know exactly where I am.
Mhm.
And the moment that I e-tagged it and the date, so I wouldn't have to notch anything. One would think,
By you pushing the button, that's you notching.
so when I say yes, I should just be yes, and I don't have to then do a harvest.
Well, you do.
That should be my harvest.
Yeah, but you hit yes, like, yes, I want to e-tag, like, yes, I'm next to it. So then it will detect your location, and that's like a requirement. So then it knows where you.
Can you guys hear me?
We got you. We're having some technical.
Springville, could you pause 1 second? We're having issues with the audio. We're able to see a camera now. However, we lost your audio approximately 1 to 2 minutes ago. Could you please confirm that you can hear us? Again, Central Region in Springville, could you please do an audio check with us?
Well, Mike, for what it's worth, I can hear you.
Thank you, John. We have a good copy from you. Central Region, we still have not been able to copy your audio. Standing by. We're still on a technical break.
Welcome back, everybody. Looks like I'm not the only one having difficulties tonight. So we're back to questions from the RAC to Lindy regarding e-tagging. JT.
So when I watched the video, I asked some people that I know about this and what their thoughts were. And one of the guys has some familiarity immediately brought up. If I put my cell phone on airplane mode or I don't have service and I'm in the field, I could punch this tag. If I got stopped, I would have a tag punched, right? But then before I take my phone off airplane mode and let it reconnect to the internet, I could just delete the app, re-download the app, and during that time remain hunting, right? And I get that there's ways around everything, but I thought that was one comment that was interesting to bring up and see if there was any thought for a situation like that.
Yeah, no, like we've had concerns over the years. You know, this is definitely a concern to us about poaching. You can go down to Walmart and get a duplicate and have the exact same thing. It's illegal to harvest two animals, and that's why we have law enforcement, and they are very, diligent out there. They, like I said, we have an internal system where if they check you, and they'll note it in their system, and we get the concern. We do, because we have the same concern, but we have that with physical tags. If someone's going to break the law, they're going to break the law no matter what we do.
Oh, sorry. There was one other question they brought up.
Yeah.
Is the geolocation associated with the app as soon as you click the button, or is it associated with the photographs?
It's with the phone, so like you have to have it turned on, like your location on your phone.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's what we detect. And then, so just real quick, I want to get back to the question that was missed of what kind of photos. Yeah, the photos. That we ask you to submit 4 photos, and that's the front, the back, the side, and the 2 sides of your species. So if you're shooting a buck deer or elk or like we just want the sides and then the front and the back. So for several reasons, if you do get
Springville, we just lost audio again. Standing by, we're still on the record.
We should be live.
Oh, they're back.
Michael, we heard part of that. If you could please confirm one more time.
You got it. Central Region, sound check.
We were able to copy you loud and clear. I think we're going to start looking into some of the network communication, see if there's some known issues. We're back on the record. Please continue. Thank you.
Okay, we're back on. So talking with our wildlife biologists, they say they actually get a lot of data out of people's photos and analyze. Surprisingly enough, people will say they shot at 5-point and actually shot at 2-point, or vice versa. So this way, it's just more accurate data for our biologists to do their jobs. Thank you, Lindy. John, did you have a question?
Yeah, I appreciate the conversation that's taken place thus far. I'm all for modernization. But the 2 public comments that were handed in regarding the people making the comments, their impression that this would increase their ability to game the system or for increased poaching. Can you envision how an e-tag would make it easier to game the system or to poach as opposed to the physical tag that's currently being used?
From my standpoint, it's about Seuss's. So like you're gonna, like you said, they're gonna do something, you're gonna do something regardless if it's a physical tag or electronic tag. You're gonna want to harvest 2 animals, they're gonna do it regardless. But we, like I said, law enforcement feels comfortable with the way we've designed it, and they felt good with the outcome.
What about the process that was just brought up by another member of the team there in Springville, where you put it on airplane mode and you delete the app and then reload the app later?
it's possible. But
Yeah.
again, you can go to Walmart and buy a duplicate and have 2 tags in your pocket. So.
Yeah. Did you think there's any way of making it even more bulletproof than its current form?
I know.
I would say it's about as bulletproof as somebody having their kids sit in the back of the truck with a pocket knife to cut the tag off as they're driving home. So I'm not saying I know that's ever happened, but
I believe, like I said, we've worked with other states that implemented e-tagging years ago. We've learned from their mistakes and we're trying to, do better. And that's why it's taking us some time to get this out.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Lindy, just like Tyson had mentioned earlier, if an individual tags through an e-tag and then is trying to then go and use their paper tag, on the flip side of that, if they tag first with their paper tag and they're not checked, is there a way then to verify that that tag's been filled?
No, unless they get checked by law enforcement or they do their harvest survey.
Which they wouldn't.
to me, that's more of a problem.
Yeah. But again, if you're going to deceive the system, you're going to deceive it regardless of what method.
And I would just point out, you've said it already 3 times. If someone's going to poach, they're going to poach, regardless of what the law says, or paper or e-tag, it doesn't matter. So to John's point, what else can we do? I'm curious to know, what discussion have you had with law enforcement? Where are the weaknesses? Where are we going to see the fallout?
Yeah. We've definitely sat over the last, while talking about them, and, all they can do is just be out there in the field more, help regulate it. And then, use the public as eyes and ears. We have the poaching hotline where if you do see something, or your friends, as much as it's hard to narc on them, like if you want to stop it, then, get out there and inform us. That's the best that we can do, is use everyone out there to help us have a better system and better opportunities.
Gotcha.
Sorry, a lot of comments on this
No, you're
one.
good.
So as I asked a lot of people about this, surprisingly, the biggest thing that I heard was people's nervousness about giving the exact pinpointed location of the harvest and what happens to that data.
Yeah.
From people saying, oh, it's public data now, to, whatever. How is that data held?
Yeah, so that's another reason why it took a little bit to get this out there, is that we worked through a policy to make it private. So it is deemed as private data, so it cannot be grandmaed through any records. It is, so no one can actually look at this data unless you're a division employee using it for your job. So it is protected, is what it's classified as.
Thank you. Oh, Eric, go ahead.
Lindy, was it ever talked about having you select whether you want a physical tag or an electronic tag on the application?
We're getting there. That's kind of where, the next few years, each time you roll out, new versions of stuff. But yeah, that would be like ideal, is that when you're applying, if you draw out, how would you like to, receive your tag, electronically or physically? But yeah, we have talked about that, and that takes the next step for sure. That's one way to stop it.
Thank you. Questions from the public? Oh, go ahead, Bryce.
So along the lines of what Eric's mentioning, how soon do you think you roll that version out to where it's you have one or the other and you have to select?
We don't
And
know.
then before that, I imagine the next step naturally would be e-tagging almost exclusively, right? To where there's no longer paper tags at all.
Yeah, to tell you the time frame, we don't have it.
That hasn't been discussed yet.
No, because it's like we want to get the first version out, get it out there, which would be later this fall. And then, people talk about making it like going straightly mandatory e-tagging. We've had discussions in the division about doing that and the pros and cons. Like, I'm sorry, not everyone has a smartphone. We can't discriminate against people's priorities of having a flip phone.
Or a phone.
Or no phone, so we've had that conversation. As of right now, that's not a direction that we've talked about going anytime soon.
So do you think with the feedback that you'll receive from this first year, this rollout,
Yeah.
should this all pass, you'll be able to have a time frame in
Mhm.
place perhaps? Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah.
Josh.
One more question. What's the financial, does it save any money to do this, or does the cost of the app and maintaining that offset, sending out 500,000 tags every year or whatever it is?
So it was all built internal. So it was built by our DTS staff. So there's no cost to that because it's our own employees that built it. So that's the beauty of it. It was, we paid for their labor, right? But the offset would be like saving money on the paper, which is actually pretty expensive. That's about the only thing. It won't cost us more to have e-tagging, but it will save us money because people want to be printing out all the permits.
And you biologists, so you get more data this way.
Yeah,
So
and
there's a value.
that's the beauty of it, is that we have real-time data. When you do submit that e-tag, you're filling out your harvest survey right then and there. And so our biologists get that information sooner. They can start looking at it and seeing what's going on in the field while it's happening. And so I know they're super excited for it, so they can start making, better recommendations. When you do the location, I know that's always a scary thing, but, they can talk about, like, they can see where the herds are, where people are harvesting. It's not like all phones, right? It's a location, but all phones have a little buffer. It's not like miles, but it has some little buffer, and that's how all phones work with location. Yeah. But like I said, so it's, yeah, exactly. It's that bush 100 yards from here, maybe. But the biologists are excited to see that information so they can start making better recommendations and seeing what's going on live in the field.
Thank you. Josh, again.
I'm sorry.
No, you're
I'm
good.
full of questions tonight.
This is good.
Last one, I do know people who will punch their tags, right? If they feel like they wounded, even if it's a wound loss. Where a punch tag wouldn't necessarily get you in trouble if you tried to electronically punch that tag, but you didn't have photos or, necessarily a location. I mean, is there any care for that or any way they can handle that?
Yeah, we, on that scenario, I guess they would submit photos of nothing, but, we would ask them if they consider that as a wound loss, just, note that on the app, on the website when you fill out not the app, but the website when you're filling out your harvest survey, that you didn't harvest, but you did wound. And so you are considering that as your take.
Lindy, did you say take or tag?
Take.
Yeah, well.
As your harvest. I know, I have a little bit of a
Big.
take and bake, guys.
Okay, public comments. Come up to the microphone. Question. Yeah, I'm sorry, not comments. Questions. Come up to the microphone, name, who you represent, and ask your question.
Kyle Coons, just represent myself. As far as the location and photos go, was that just put in there more for data for biologists? Or is that kind of a,
Yes.
So that's the reason. Okay.
Yep.
That's what I
Yes,
was
that's
curious.
the exact reason. We're always asked for more data.
Hi, Caitlin Curry with Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. 2 questions. First, I was just wondering if there's any issue with a hunter who might be a little bit more thorough using both options, especially if they have a little bit of apprehension of using the new tool in the first year.
So they have the permit in their pocket and they decide to e-tag.
They decide to e-tag and then they also tag their physical tag.
As long as it's on the same species?
Same animal.
The same animal? Not the same, yeah, the same animal. Sure, if you want to, not required, but yeah, if you feel like you want to, make sure it's securely fastened to your animal and then tag it, but it's not necessary.
Okay, and then the second question is around the rule of transporting game. Is that affected at all with this new rule?
Same rules that we have now with transporting.
Okay, gotcha. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we just are changing the tagging.
Okay, we'll move on to public comment. First person, Caitlin Curry.
Should have stayed up there. Caitlin Curry, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. We talked pretty extensively amongst our policy committee about this. We're really excited about the change, the e-tagging. We like that there's more options for hunters out there. We really like the real-time data aspect of it. We did talk about the concern over location, but Lindy did answer our question in advance, so that alleviated that concern. The only other concern we had was around being out of service, e-tagging your animal. And then my understanding is you have to actually reopen the app when you go back into service. This is not an app that I use multiple times a year. I might open it once a year to download my license. So just that might be a vulnerability in uploading data real time. The poaching concern honestly wasn't really a concern amongst our group. We thought that it's pretty much the same, more or less, than it would be without e-tagging. So we are in support of the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next comment is Kyle Coombs.
Kyle Coombs, just representing myself. Being one that's forgot my tag and had to turn around and drive home, I think this is a great idea. My only concern was the location and mostly location data. Obviously it's private data, public can't get it. I don't know if there's a way that we could, obviously we've made some new laws and rules regarding like GPS data and using that data for harvest and helping intake. If there's a way we could put that wording in as far as the tagging location data, maybe saying it's illegal to use tagging location data and data from that type of stuff to harvest, I guess, if that makes sense. But that was my only concern with that. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Those are the only comment cards I have. Bring it back to Ron for public comment.
Online, we had 6 total votes, 2 strongly agree, 1 neither agree or disagree, and 3 strongly disagree. Of their comments with those votes, the positives were that it improves accurate and timely reporting, and the negatives were possible loopholes for tagging multiple animals, and they just prefer paper tags.
Thank you, Ron. Bring it back to the RAC for discussion and comment. Yes.
I think a lot of really good questions were brought up, and I feel pretty good that this has been in the process for multiple years and the division has thought about it pretty extensively. So I feel in support of these recommendations and that they've really thought about all the different scenarios. And I like that it's going to be ever growing.
Go ahead.
So I think it was clear from the feedback that everybody's worried about this poaching thing. And I kind of alluded to it earlier. I just don't see it. As Lindy said, I could go get that. I could walk into the division office and get a duplicate of my permit and have 2 paper permits in my hand right now today, right? I don't need this e-tagging thing to be able to do that. I have a little bit of insight into the criminal mindset, and this is just not, I don't think this is going to materially increase poaching one bit. Those who we're going to do it, we're going to do it anyway. So while that seems to be the biggest concern, I just am not buying off on that. It doesn't resonate with me. I do think, I don't know if this is even my place to say it, but I'll say it anyways. I do think the rule, the way it was written, was a little bit clunky. In fact, I almost emailed you because I thought that there was a mistake in the rule. I reached out to Bryce and was like, what the heck? And as I was preparing my email, I realized that no, it's not. It doesn't say what I thought it said. I thought it was saying you e-tag it and you have to put a physical tag on because you have, I think it's that subsection 2 in each one of the rules where it says the physical tag or e-tag, and then you jump down and the physical tag or e-tag. And I almost wonder if you separated it and made one subsection the physical tag and a different subsection or the e-tag, because it's just a little bit clunky. But again, I don't know if that's my place, but that was an observation I made that might confuse some people in the public when they go to read it.
Thank you. Go ahead, Bryce.
I guess I bumped it again, sorry. I think that the division has done a good job of researching and understanding other states where they kind of maybe made some mistakes. And I agree with Tyson. I don't think it's going to be an issue for any additional poaching or opportunities there. Those people that are going to do it are going to do it. And I don't think we should ever make rules based on that. So we have to hopefully believe that the majority of hunters and those that are trying to harvest animals are going to do it the right way.
Any other comments from the RAC? Then I would accept an emotion.
I would make a motion that we accept the division's proposal as presented.
I will second that motion.
We have a motion to accept as presented with a second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Is there any other business that somebody wants to bring up? Having none, the meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.